This is the third and the last clip in the social psychology series. We started with the Solomon Asch experiment, which illustrated conformity to a group. And then in the second video, we discussed briefly how social evolution, groups on the savannah, might have led to many brain mechanisms in us that favor such things as conformity or other ways in which we might function well as a group. Now, in this clip, the last one, I want to consider the in-group, out-group problem. I want us to consider this recent book by Joshua Greene from Harvard called Moral Tribes. In class, we already considered this man's work when we talked about the trolley dilemma. Here you see the first option where the person pulls or doesn't pull the switch to divert the trolley from running over 5 people, but runs over 1. As you may remember, 90% or so of the class said that they would pull the switch. Regrettably, 1 person will die. But over here, a completely different reaction happened in the class when we asked if you would still follow the 1-to-5 ratio and push the large man off the bridge, killing him and stopping the trolley and saving the 5. And here, 90% said, no, you can't do that. That is murder, even though the odds are the same. We talked about this as being an example of unconscious decision making. So where does this leave us? Well, imagine you're on the savannah in a group, and that group is functioning in a very nice way. You have some good feelings about your companions. Some of them, you know, have done you favors in the past and you want to do them favors. There's a whole issue here about reciprocal altruism. There's a lot of opportunities for you to be grateful, and gratitude, we know, for example, leads to pro-social behaviors such as sharing of resources. There's even a chemical called oxytocin, which we can talk about, that leads to affiliative behaviors. And all these things are contrasted by when someone does you dirt in this group, steals your food, and that person is ostracized. In fact, the problem of free riders in an affiliative group is a very big one, and it appears that we have instincts for and don't like people who take advantage of us. So that our instincts, our unconscious decision making, as with the trolley example, seems to lead us to make a lot of the right choices within the group in order to have the group be smoothly functioning. This is what Joshua Greene points out in Moral Tribes. In fact, some people even say that language itself evolved in order to allow us to keep better track of reciprocal altruism. She said that you said something behind my back would be an example where that didn't work. Now take all of that, and now let's think about the outgroup. There on the other side of the savannah is another group. They want to hunt what we hunt. They want to live where we live. They might attack us, and we have instincts about them too. But they're all negative. They're all about us surviving and our genes surviving, and if we have to, taking them out in order to make room for us to survive. So Joshua Greene argues that if the mind is like a camera and it has an automatic point and shoot mode where you can take pictures quickly, like the instinctive unconscious reasoning, then that is going to serve us well within our group, but poorly when we compare to the outgroup. And he points out that the outgroup problem is the problem of our modern world, where we have groups fighting with each other as more and more in a global world we bump into each other. And if we don't recognize them as being part of our in-group, we might be tempted to use these out-group instincts on them. So Greene argues in his book that this is the time when we have to not follow our instincts. We have to go against them by evoking our rational minds, our conscious deliberative thinking, and control our instincts. All of us like money, but we don't steal, or at least most of us don't. Not only because it's wrong, but because there are laws against it and consequences for doing it. Our societal order helps to control our instinct to take someone else's money. Also, it wouldn't work well in the in-group in terms of reciprocal altruism and your ability to get along with others. So, one solution is to just be more mindful, contemplative, rational when we deal with people who are not part of our in-group, who don't look like us, who don't speak our language. But there's another way, which I think is illustrated in the Borough of Queens, and that is to have enough contact with that group in order to be familiar with them, to have some stake in their existence. So, for example, in this very class, we have many diverse peoples, and we have a stake in doing something well together. It's interesting that in the last couple of decades in Queens, there hasn't really been an ethnic racial conflict of the kinds that we have seen elsewhere, like in Ferguson or in other parts of the world. We have a situation unfolding right now in the Middle East with ISIS, which certainly seems to be pitting one group against the other. In fact, some have called this the clash of civilizations, as opposed to a dialogue between civilizations. So these issues are very serious. They're issues of social psychology, and they're issues in which we in this class can think about solutions because we're in a very interesting laboratory that makes it possible for us to have an in-group, but also to have either tolerance for the out-group or maybe for us to think that we're all humans and all part of the in-group.